Welcome to the Manifestation Method podcast. I'm your host, Ayala Polanski. If you've landed here, take it as your sign that you are open and ready to receive all the abundance the universe has to offer. Merging spirituality, energy, and mindset, I break down a super big topic into a methodology so that you can start implementing tools and shifting your mindset right away, helping you manifest a life beyond your wildest dreams. After studying mysticism and the mind for almost 2 decades, including years in India, Israel, and Peru, I've learned a thing or two about what it takes to bring your vision to life. Inspired by hypnosis, NLP, visualization, narrative therapy, and somatic work, consider me the mentor and sister that lives to inspire, transform, and alchemize every area of your life. This is the Manifestation Method podcast. Today, I want to speak about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, which is the topic of love and what makes relationships last forever. Like, what is the actual formula to everlasting love? We live in a world where the divorce rate is astronomical. It's at 42% in America, meaning there are 86 divorces per hour approximately. Now, I think it's safe to assume that when a couple says their I do's, they're not walking down the aisle thinking, well, I may as well not take this whole marriage thing seriously because I've only got about a 50% chance of getting this marriage thing right. No way. I'd say the majority of couples get married with hopes of living happily ever after. But what percentage of couples go into this commitment with a blueprint that guides the couple through their lives in a fail-proof way? I'd beg to argue it's the couples who really get the science of love and matrimony, who manage to make this thing called marriage work. And marriage does take work. Because let's face it, marriage is not easy. It's putting together two people who had two different upbringings, often coming from two different cultures with different sets of beliefs, varying life experiences. Oh, and not to mention, the majority of marriages are two opposite genders trying to figure out how the heck to even understand each other. The first couple of years of being married to my husband, as one of our mentors put it, was like two Ferraris coming together, each trying to claim their territory and be the star of the show. Each one of us desperately wanted to feel heard. And I can say that so transparently now because of the deep, deep work and inner exploration my husband and I both did in order to make our marriage get to where it is now, which is a marriage founded on the foundation of respect, commitment, and acceptance. But let's back up a second. I did say this topic is near and dear to my heart. And the reason for that is by the time I met my husband and we got engaged to be married, I went on a mission to find out what the couples who I respected and that have been together for many years had to say about the secrets to everlasting love. I was so determined to be one of those couples who only got married once. And I also was committed to being in a marriage that felt fulfilling. I was absolutely terrified of getting into a situation where I'd sign up for a life of misery. So I became what I call a love investigator. This episode is a deep dive into all the research I did and the astonishing results that I gathered. So I hope this information meets you in a place where you become inspired and hopeful about lifelong love, and that you leave with a real understanding of what it takes to have your relationship be an everlasting one. So let's jump in. The first pit stop I made in gathering this information was to a wise and well-respected rabbi from a small town called Bat Ain in Israel. I was newly engaged. I showed up to his office, sat down across from this white-bearded man and said, "Tell me everything I need to know about the secrets to staying happily married." And he looked at me and he smirked and he said, "Rule number one of marriage is avoda." Then he was silent. Avoda means work in Hebrew. There was an awkward pause as I waited for him to proceed and go down the long list of practical marriage advice. But there was nothing. He was silent. He just looked at me with his bright blue eyes, hoping that I'd just get it. So I left his office feeling disappointed, to say the least, and not so hopeful. Work? That's what I needed to know about this desire that I've had for years, the desire to find a man who would in ways complete me and I'd complete him, and we'd create a magical, passionate, meaningful life together. Work was the best piece of advice that he had. I was so confused. Well, fast forward 7 years, and I can finally say that I think I get it. The rabbi was right. Marriage takes work, a lot of work. And I think couples go into marriage with a completely distorted understanding of what marriage is meant to be about. Couples seek the person who will complete them, the person who will finally fill the void of loneliness and despair, the person who will take care of them and heal their wounds. Well, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but reality check. Marriage does not complete you. Marriage is an amplifier, meaning whatever trauma or wounds you bring into marriage will not be healed by your partner. In fact, they will actually be amplified by your partner. Say if you struggle with feelings of loneliness and you get married, your partner will only amplify your feelings of loneliness because you won't feel heard or understood by your partner. And that's a pretty lonely feeling. If you suffer from abandonment because you experienced that as a child, let's say, your partner will most likely amplify those feelings of fear that already exist inside of you. They won't heal you from that. Marriage is an amplifier, and for that specific reason, it takes work. But here's the thing, no need to fret. This isn't meant to be a curse. Marriage is actually meant to be the greatest gift. Marriage is meant to take a lot of work. It's in the work of trying to understand your partner and learning your partner's needs and values and committing to a lifetime of growth that you experience deep, deep levels of connection, triumph, and love. If my husband and I didn't have to work so hard at our marriage, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to each, as sovereign beings, look inside ourselves, look at our own stuff, and as a result, grow leaps and bounds. See, after 6 years of deep inner work living in India and 8 years of me living in Israel doing deep, deep, deep spiritual work, on top of living in the Amazon jungles of Peru, doing all the transformational programs, self-help development programs, I can genuinely, confidently say that there has been no better workshop to equip me for life as being married has. So thank you, Rabbi, for this simplistically deep piece of wisdom. For if I wasn't prepared beforehand, I probably would have freaked out once the reality in the container of marriage actually hit me. Another beautiful piece of advice I received was when I was engaged and I was at someone else's engagement party. And I spoke to another wise rabbi who was married for many years and had many kids. And I asked him, what's the secret to peace in the home between husband and wife? And his response was this. He said, imagine you and your husband have an opportunity to go on vacation for 1 week. Say that your husband wants to go to Italy and you, Ayala, you want to go to Peru. Your husband should do everything in his power to make sure you guys end up in Peru, which is where I wanted to go. And you, Ayelet, should do everything in your power to make sure you end up in Italy, which is where he wants to go. Again, I left feeling pretty confused from that conversation. So I thought to myself, I should want to go where he wants, and he should want to go where I want. And we should do everything in our power to make sure the other gets what they want. But where does me getting what I want come in? Well, we might as well just stay home in that case, is what I responded to the rabbi. But no, there was something so incredibly deep to what he was saying. In marriage, so many arguments are the cause of trying to mark our territory and have our own needs be met. But from a Jewish perspective, love is cultivated by acts of giving to the other. It's the reason that parents love their kids unconditionally, no matter what. Because all parents do is give and give and give, most of the time without ever receiving as much as a thank you in return from their children. But this is how love is created. You don't have to work on loving your partner more. You just have to work on giving to your partner. Wanting your partner to have their needs met is the true sign of mature love. This whole culture we live in, where people love one another because of how the other serves me and treats me and meets my needs, that's selfish love. I don't even know that I would call that love. Oh, I love him because he treats me well. Okay, so what if one day he, God forbid, becomes ill and we're no longer able to treat you well? You just stop loving him all of a sudden? Now, I'm not advocating for finding a partner who treats you badly. All I'm saying is there needs to be a reframe on how we are defining love. If my husband wants to go to Italy because his needs and wants are so important to me, and because I truly want to make him happy, I would want to do everything in my power to get us to Italy. This is what it means to truly be a team, to work together. In the end, we'd probably find some compromise that would make us both happy. But at the essence of this wisdom is the deep desire to give to your partner and have their needs met, because they are that important to you. And because you realize that when your partner is winning, you are winning. But if your partner is losing, you're also losing. Let's think about it another way. When your partner is bummed because his favorite basketball team lost the series, or let's say he just lost his job, or he found out that one of his parents became ill, you would be heartbroken for him. When there is love there, you feel empathy for your partner. What they feel impacts you in some way. And this happens because we are so energetically and emotionally fused with our family members and especially with our partners. If we just thought about putting our own egos to the side and prioritizing our partner's wants and needs, we would save ourselves loads of heartache and arguments. When you want to give to your partner in such a way that they get their desires met, their happiness transmits onto you and you end up feeling happy. And trust me, the more you do this, the more your partner will start to do the same. So don't listen to this episode as a way to throw something in your partner's face and get them to be the one to change. Become the change you want to see in your relationship. The magic will transpire from there. And finally, probably the most fundamental piece of advice came from my personal mentor, who I also call my Israeli wizard, because he truly is a magical human with universal wisdom. I went to him after a friend of mine came to me hysterically crying. She was distraught because she had cheated on her husband and he found out, and she was devastated that he was going to leave her. I became the person she cried to for weeks and weeks after her husband left the house. She was looking to me to help fix her marriage. So I went to seek advice from my wizard. I asked him if there's ever a way back for couples after infidelity, and he said yes. I was relieved for the sake of my friend. He said, as long as there is commitment, any couple can get through anything, even cheating. And he's seen this happen many times before. Now, this doesn't mean that it comes without work. In fact, it took tremendous work for my friend and her husband. But fast forward a year and they are living happily with their kids in a new home. In fact, 75% of individuals and couples cited lack of commitment as the reason for their divorce. This was the most common cause of a marriage ending, exceeding even infidelity. I'll never forget my mentor's exact words. As long as there is commitment, a couple can make anything work. And this is a mantra I take with me into my own marriage each and every single day. Another thing I think is important to add about commitment is the actual spiritual surgery that takes place at a Jewish wedding, which is something I've had the blessing to attend many, many times living in Israel. After living in Israel for 8 years and attending countless weddings, I can confidently say that the felt sense of two people becoming one is so palpable. It's like their souls are going through a spiritual surgery performed by God. Men and women on their wedding days are said to be accompanied by the Shekhinah, which is God's presence through his Holy Spirit. I truly believe this can apply to anyone getting married from any religion, culture, or tradition. I believe that when a couple signs a marriage contract, that below here on earth, they are undoubtedly signing a sacred contract in the spiritual realm and physical realm. I don't want to speak generally about all couples when I say what I'm about to say, but I feel confident in saying that most couples who have been together for years but don't find the need to sanctify the commitment in a ceremonial context can come into trouble at some point. I can speak for myself in sharing that there was something about dating the men I dated before I met my husband and the turmoil those relationships caused me simply because there was no spiritual contract. We never went through that spiritual surgery together called marriage. So I think subconsciously, because these relationships never got to the level of marriage, I always lived with the fear that they could leave whenever they wanted to. Something about the lack of commitment to marriage left me with this 1 foot in, 1 foot out experience. And that felt really unsettling for me. There was something that came over me on my wedding night. The moment my husband and I became officially husband and wife, I remember how palpable it was. It felt like a huge relief. And something spiritually inside me felt like it had shifted instantaneously. It felt like I could surrender into the knowing that this man chose me, only me, and was willing to seal the deal by marrying me. Once the marriage is under a couple's belt, they are more likely to stay and do the work. If the commitment of marriage is not there, what causes a couple to stay in the relationship when times get rough? I see so many people running from their relationships the moment things get uncomfortable or they have to confront their own wounds. They live with this false narrative that they will just meet the next person who won't cause them XYZ type of pain. But that is a false belief. You take your trauma and wounds with you into every relationship. And until you do the inner work on yourself, you will just attract the same archetype over and over, just in a different body. Our relationships are meant to be the containers for us to do this deep inner work. You cannot do it alone. Healing requires a mirror or another person in order to activate, amplify, and show you the less desirable parts of yourself. You can't see yourself without a mirror. It's impossible. So stop running from relationship to relationship, thinking that it'll be the next person who makes you feel complete. Nobody can make you feel complete besides yourself. Your partner can complement you in many ways, support you in many ways, love you in all the ways, but they cannot complete you. That is not their job. A partner can give you the opportunity to complete yourself, but they cannot complete you. They are not here to heal you. They are here to show you what needs to be healed. Are my husband and I perfect? No. Is our marriage perfect? No. There is no perfect marriage. And any image you see on social media that portrays the perfect marriage is complete deception. Marriage was not meant to be perfect. It's meant to take work. It's meant to take commitment. It's meant to include lots and lots of giving to the other person. But boy, oh boy, if you have those three wheels in motion, I truly believe you can experience your happily ever after. I can say with total confidence that my husband and I are happily married. Thank God. We work through our differences and disagreements every single day, and we choose each other again and again in every moment. These disagreements used to scare us at the beginning of our marriage. Our differences and disagreements used to convince me that maybe I married the wrong person. But thank God we stayed committed to one another no matter what. Because it's in our differences that I now see exactly why God brought us together, why we need each other to fulfill our lives' missions. He completes me where I fall short. I add value to his life in areas that he needs to strengthen. I'm the yin to his yang. And somehow, after sorting through all the sloppiness, the messiness, and the confusion of it all, we have found and continue to be on the journey of discovering the miracle of marriage.